Panama says that the increase from Venezuela has been significant. Number from Venezuela, 3,000 in the first 2 months in 2021, 8,500 in the same period for 2022, of which 1,300 were children. That's UNICEF. This is March 2022. And then I don't see anything for 2023. I would have, you should have left me to die, somebody says, because their kid died and mom just wanted to just quit. Oh, this is the picture that I had in my mind. Actually, it was not the actual picture, but it's what the description was. Let me see if I can pull it out. I'm sorry to do this. Here it is.
Yes.
One of the ladies was said, you either move or you sink.
Wow.
Anyway.
So that's the path.
Yeah.
And it's wet year round, or it's a particular season, or do we know that?
Well, even in the jungle, there's a wet season and a dry season. I know that much, but I have no idea.
Which is which?
Shall we talk, Nick?
Sure.
Sure. We're about a little past halfway through.
Well, yeah, so unaccompanied minors, asylum, and Nick we have on our list. I did the narrative, nativism, and breaking through. That's the one you saw next, right, Carolyn?
Yeah.
So I'm fresh on that one, and that one energized me quite a bit. The other one was more explanatory. This one was more advocacy. You want to cover the first one since you have more notes? I don't know if I can show it.
Yeah, they were just basically, there was a panel of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 people talking about what are the various causes of migration. And the ones that, I mean, some seemed fairly obvious to me. The ones that kind of stood out to me were just the inequities in the world, social, cultural, social, economic, and political, accentuated by COVID. And then another person said the same thing essentially, but said it in much stronger language: white supremacy, capitalism, imperialism, and the push for development in third world countries that pushes people out of places where they live.
And then there's the lady that talks about the nature, what's it called, climate change. Because it's not normally categorized as one of the sources,
right?
And yet we have people showing up already.
Right. So yeah, that was, to me, that was, well, of course, that's why they were coming, of course, but maybe it's not enough course for everybody. And then transnational activity of corporations, which, I mean, that goes with the other things I said. And then someone else said the failures of the international system. And I don't have specifics on that, but there was a lot of head nodding for that one. And then another person said the myth that the U.S. is next to paradise and that the U.S. continues to emphasize and promote. So, I mean,
Yeah, that's Oscar from Alianzas,
uh-huh,
based in Chicago. Yeah, he's very good at
right.
cutting through the.
But he was saying that the U.S. policies. I mean, part of it's the mythology of that we're an exceptional nation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the whole mythology, which anybody who grows up in the U.S. is fed that from way early in school. But yeah, and then our movies and our communication and our PR and all that reinforce that.
I'm going to show a picture of the panel as you talk about them. See if I
Okay,
can make it
sure.
big.
Yeah. Yeah, the ones that I was most impressed with was that Oscar, was it Chacon or Chacon?
Yeah, Oscar Chacon. Yeah, I've
And then Juanita, I didn't get her full name, but she's Mayan.
yeah, her name here is showing up.
And then
Juanita Cabrera Lopez.
and then Nazreen Ash, who I think is the one in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And Christina Francois, who's the second from the left.
Yeah.
I mean, they all had important things to say, but those are the ones that really stuck out to me.
Actually, a local note,
Mm-hmm.
Juanita Cabrera
Mm-hmm.
of the International Mayan League.
Uh-huh.
I had not paid attention to the Mayan League at all. I mean, as a, like it wasn't salient in my head.
Uh-huh.
But just on Saturday, at the end of we had a workshop in Canjobal, and
Mm-hmm.
people from several areas of the country came. And the group that came from Nebraska,
Uh-huh.
the lady, as they received her diploma, she said, "Well, I have known our teacher here since, for the last 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
but I started on this back when I was given an opportunity to go to a training with the International Mayan League." And so over the weekend, that organization has been put in my radar.
So a different conference. It just happened this last weekend.
It just happened to be here in town. We were down at the United Way. They lent us their facility so we
Wow.
could have the training. And a very, very beautifully dressed, a native costume. And she organizes the Canjobal people in Omaha.
Wow.
That was just like a closed circle because I started thinking about this over the weekend after that. And it just so happened that Juanita here on the screen is also representing that group. So that group has been around for a good 15, 20 years.
Wow.
Advocating for the Mayans.
I'd heard of it. And, I perk up because I'm tutoring Guatemalans from Mayan areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But she was very, very articulate, very well spoken.
Yeah. Yeah, I think these panelists are mostly at that level. They're just
yeah.
They've been around for a while, so they speak mostly without notes. They're just so passionate.
Yeah, she was speaking with her phone notes. At one point, she was, "Oh, I lost my place."
Yeah.
But she was. I mean, yeah, you're right. They all spoke very well.
So I want to switch to this one, if it's okay with that one, because that's the causes of migration. Nick, actually, let me see if I can switch and just recommend that people, you can do it on Twitter, you can do it on it is the National Immigrant Inclusion Conference.
Yeah,
it happened in December from this town. Jesse went from the NOC, and that's the only one I'm aware of that went this year.
I just went to their website and they have a list of all the different panels, because it's just the panels I think that they taped or that you can listen to, and you have to be patient because they don't come on right away. You
Yeah.
got them and you think there's nothing here. It maybe 10 minutes later you'll start hearing some. It's like, and run in from the other room. It's like, oh, I'm actually getting something here.
It started. Yeah.
Um,
So I went to Twitter because I'd had that experience, and when you go to Twitter, their servers dish it out faster. Uh,
oh,
so you're right; they only put out to the public the
panels.
the panels, the
Mhm.
keynotes. And this one that I'm showing, I think I'm still sharing. I don't know if you guys see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you see two guys there.
Yep.
I don't know how the sound will transfer, Tom, but I wanted to go to three places in this particular speech, which was, the title was Nativism. What's it called, Carolyn?
Narrative, nativism, and breaking through.
Yeah.
And that guy I was sitting, he
Oh
looked
yeah.
much like our sheriff, I think. Justin Heuerman.
Yeah. Let me see which one you're talking about. I'm gonna try to find
One that was just that guy. To me, he
Oh,
looks.
oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, he was the one that introduced the the panel, and then the moderator was another one. But
Yeah.
there's very distinct characters, and we can play them all. But my favorite by far, even though what's his name, Jose Antonio, what's his
Oh,
name?
yeah. Vargas.
Vargas. Yeah, he came to this town and he gave an excellent talk.
Mhm.
But this lady is by far my favorite. Let me see if I can. I thought it was 114, and now it's stuck. There it is. So this lady is from New York, from Brooklyn in particular. I want to show her to you. Well, so much for Twitter servers. It looks like Mr. Musk is playing with us again. It's completely out. And I'd hate to, if I reload, I might lose the whole thing. We'll see. Well, if it doesn't happen, this session was for me very motivating. I'm glad you pointed it out, Carolyn, because it is very much people that have been around. Here it is. So this guy is the one that came to this town.
Yeah, I saw him a number of years ago when he came.
Yeah.
He was a little younger then.
We don't have any volume at all here. Do you have the sound on?
Yeah, but that's what I wanted to test. Somewhere, let me see if I can, somewhere in here there's a setting that says settings. Darn it. I don't remember what the setting is. I'm sorry.
Well, there's.
I know I've done it. Actually, I'm recalling Zoom, not.
Yeah, let's see, microphone. I don't know. It's probably under more options.
Yeah. Do you see him in full screen?
Yeah.
Now we can see 4 people.
Yeah.
But it looks like the volume is off or down or something.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a setting that will be interesting. We should once we send them to the NIT conference. Just very briefly, this guy, the 2 oldest guys here, the guy with glasses, he sells himself as that one on the left is a political movement things. One of his best parts was for me saying you know, why are we envisioning a country without white people? Uh, I try to go for those in the middle. Why would we want to talk about making this country without whites? It's too radical to be going there. It just doesn't make sense. Uh, you know, political change happens with the ones in the middle, not with the nativists,
Mm.
basically. Uh, and then my favorite person,
Oh, she was fiery, wasn't she?
oh, Linda is fiery as could be. Here she'll be. I want to point her out because everybody should know her face. She is a beautiful Muslim from Brooklyn, uh, and she can speak so well. Uh, and I would say she's my favorite because she's the street one. She said a line that stuck with me: "Unity is not uniformity." Uh, we may have different tactics and different ways of approaching. We're all united. We should be united in principles, and let each group decide the specifics that they want to fight with for the specifics of reform. But even comprehension immigration reform means different things to different people. Let's agree on the principles. We'll do the street work. You guys do the negotiation part, because they're not going to want to negotiate with me because I'm too radical, but I'm making room for you guys. Because if we didn't, if the dreamers had not gone out and been so bold, Obama wouldn't have done anything either.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Highly recommend this one, Mr. Garza, if you can include it somehow.
Do you want to send me the link, and then I'll see if I can't record it? You don't want just her part, right?
Her part, this section, at least is put up by Twitter, because that it will give me a link to it.
So I think that, Jose, you said something that I think is really important, this idea of and.
Yes.
Because there, in the civil rights movement, there needed to be Dr. King and there needed to be Malcolm X. And in order for someone to talk to Charles, because I don't want to talk to the people that Charles is trying to talk to. That's just, there's different roles for us to play in the movement. That's not my role. Charles needs to be able to say, you better talk to me, because if you don't talk to me, you're going to deal with Linda Sarsour and the rest of the folks that are over here. And that's what Malcolm, the Black Panther Party and others, that was their role in the movement. Their role in the movement was to say, listen to this brother right here, what he's saying, because, you know, he's trying to do the whole negotiation situation. We don't negotiate, because we are going to take what we want by any means necessary. So you go on over here and talk to him and give him what he needs, or then you're going to have to deal with us. And so we have to understand that we are a movement where unity is not uniformity. So that doesn't mean that...
Wait, can you say that again?
Unity is not uniformity. So
That's a t-shirt.
I believe that's... I'm trademarking that. I believe that Charles fights for me with everything that he has, and he fights for you. And that his goal and his values and his principles are the same as mine. But he has a different approach, and he has a different role to play, and he got to play that role good. That doesn't mean that I'm going to play that role. But I also believe that there's something that we're missing here, because Murad asked, let's look at the last election that we just came out of. Let's look at Georgia. Who's Georgia in the house? Yeah. Anybody looked at the exit polls from the runoff election? The white people weren't with us. I didn't say that. The polls said that. Over 70% of white women still voted against the opposition. That's the polls. I didn't say that. Same thing with white men. Black people, overwhelming majority of black men and women went to the polls and did the right thing. A higher increase, and listen, the Asians, y'all still got to get it together too.
Okay.
I'm not saying, we got to also speak about our own people, because we don't be straight too. In the Latino community, you all are building a lot of political power, but in some parts of the country, you also got to get your cousins too, because they're also not doing the right thing sometimes too. So I say all that to say, trust me, I be getting my people all the time. So some of my own people don't be feeling me either, so I'm just telling you the truth. Because sometimes you just got to tell people the truth. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because here's what I believe is an investment. When we have seen major investments in expanding the electorate, engaging more young people, engaging more black voters, more Asian voters, more Latino voters, more Muslim voters, guess what happens? We win, folks. We win. So I'm not saying that we don't need the white folks that Charles is talking about. Yes, there are key states where we're going to need folks to see their liberation bound up with ours, but we also have enough black and brown people and marginalized people in this country who are still not going to the polls, and that tells us that we just got more work to do amongst our own people. So the narratives are, like Charles said, there are different narratives that need to be happening. So for example, yesterday I was in a youth program that was happening here at Nick, which I think is absolutely incredible, and I can't wait for next year and the year after that and the year, because the youth are not the future, the youth are saving us right now. And I said something to them yesterday, and it didn't even occur to me. It was just something that came to me as I looked around the room with all these beautiful young black and brown, some immigrants themselves, some children of immigrants. And I said to them, a great-great-grandmother of yours prayed, and you are their prayers answered. And that's the kind of narrative that we need in our communities right now. We need people to understand that we sit here on this stage today because somebody sacrificed for me. Somebody gave up something for me. You might have lost somebody you loved because they wanted everything for you that they didn't have. And so if we start operating from the perspective that we don't need this idea of like, oh, you're included or not included. Immigrants helped build this nation. Black people helped build this nation. We came to a nation that already had a people on it. That is the kind of morale that we need, because sometimes it's not just about policy and about winning a campaign. It's about building morale of our people. Our people are down. Every day somebody tells us you're not enough, you don't belong here. Every day we have to defend ourselves. We're always on the defense trying to build our place in this country, but the place is already here because somebody already gave me this space. Somebody already sacrificed this space for me. If it wasn't for the Civil Rights Act, if it wasn't for a black-led civil rights movement, we wouldn't be here as immigrants. Our parents wouldn't have been able to come to this country if it wasn't for the Civil Rights Movement. And so when we learn that history, when we instill that courage, we have to build that in our own movements that we're a part of, and then we have to support the people like Charles, and without saying, yo, Charles don't speak for me. He's over here doing respectability politics. Charles is doing something I don't want to do. So let's respect the people willing to do the things we don't want to do while we build the power that Charles can point to and say, if we don't get this done, these are the people that are going to be outside in the streets. And I will say, even on DACA, DACA wasn't a negotiation. Let me just be clear. DACA was because undocumented young people was like, you better get something on that. You better write something down quick, because we are going to organize. We're going to chain ourselves to the White House. We're going to do civil disobedience. We're going to organize. We're going to rally. We're going to do. Get it together. And Obama was like, I got to give these young people something. Even if Congress is not going to do their job, I'm going to give these young people something, because them young people, they earned it, and they worked hard for it. So yes, let's do the negotiating. Let's have the conversation that need to be had, but do not underestimate the power of resistance and the power of organizing, because we also won that way too.
Wow. We're going to continue, and I'm going to invite you, Linda, to answer this one, and we'll continue with Charles. As a field, we talk about cohesive or unified messaging. Where do you see us making progress, and where might we still be falling short?
And I'm going to say what I just said earlier. Unity is not uniformity, right? There's just some messaging in the movement I'm never going to say. It's not something like, I'm going to give you an example, and I'm probably going to like make half the room mad right now. When the family separation was happening in a very visible way, because we know we've always had family separation in this country. But when it was very visible back in 2018, you remember that? Next thing you know, families belong together. So what you're really trying to tell me is the families belong together in the cages, right? Not separated, but they belong together. There was a mixed messaging there that wasn't clear to me what we were asking. What we should have been asking is free them all. I don't care if they're children, parents, the grandma, the uncle, the single fathers, the single men that came. Free them all. Free them all. Nobody should have been in cages. It should have been get them out of the cages, right? So sometimes we fall short because we want something immediate and we jump to the thing that we see the moms and the children being ripped out. The first thing we think, keep the families together. So we also have to be, we can't keep being reactionary. We got to be clear. Wait a minute, there's children in cages, there's children being ripped from their mothers. No cages. No people that are coming to this country looking and determined for a better life should be sitting in a cage waiting for this country to decide whether to let them in or let them out, right? That is something that we should have all agreed on. We fell short with that. I'm just saying. Also, the place where we fall short that we shouldn't even try to do unified messaging about because it's not going to work is when we get super specific about policies. Charles knows this. It's not going to work because there's going to be a negotiated amendment comes out in this change. For example, when we say abolish ICE, half the movement is disaffiliated with us the minute we say abolish ICE. There's people in the movement that don't think that that's a sound ask right now. And they say, whoa, 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 wait up, abolish, I don't know where you're going with that. That's too much, take that out of the platform. If you're gonna bring that to the table, that's not gonna work over here. We can't bring that to the hearing, to the briefing that we're doing in Congress because some members of Congress won't come to a briefing if anyone's gonna talk about abolishing ICE. So what I say to folks all the time is let us find the principles and the values that bring us together. Those are the things we're all gonna share in this room. But we're not going to share specific policies. Like when we say comprehensive immigration reform, guess what? That means something different to different people. And so when we start saying we all support comprehensive immigration reform, I'm just newsflash. I promise you, if you asked everybody in this room what you think it means, it doesn't mean the same thing to everybody in the room. So let's try to unite hearts, stories, values, principles. And then, as a movement, we're going to have to negotiate the specific policies that our people be fighting for. Because when we start with the policies, this is why I believe we don't have comprehensive immigration reform now. Because there's been so many moments in the movement, you know this, we've argued about this before, where certain people want one thing and another group of people goes in and says, don't worry about those people. You could take 1, 2, 3 out, and we're still support this bill. And still, we don't, even when we sell people out and throw them under the bus like we did on border security, like we did on national security loopholes in the Senate bill, they told me, I didn't hear this, it's not hearsay. I was on a call with some of America's national immigrant rights groups and national civil rights groups, and we said that we should fight to remove the border security loopholes and the national security loopholes and ensure that we do not remove the sibling visas and some of the other family-based petition visas that they were going to remove in the green card lottery. Our friend said to me, don't worry, let us get the bill to the floor and then we're going to work to negotiate those things out. Guess what happened? It never even went as far as they wanted, and they took it after throwing our communities under the bus. And I'm saying there's been involvement on that too, because we had to have the courageous conversations after that in hopes that we learn our lesson, that we either win together or we lose together with dignity and principle and not leaving anybody behind.